So before we get into our topic, we're going to just quickly kind of do a intro to meditation as a whole, right? Because maybe this is your first time. I presume that at least half of you, this is your first time ever meditating. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is meditation, kind of why does it work, how do we do it. Then we're going to do a short, about 5-minute breathing meditation. And then we'll get into our topic for the day and then do maybe another meditation at the end. Not maybe, definitely, right? Okay, so if you have any questions, hey, Dale, you made it. Lisa, you made it. Awesome. If you have any questions, ask me at any time. That's the advantage of doing this live. You can be like, Keith, that doesn't make any sense. And I'll be like, okay, how about this explanation instead? Marina, hello. Okay, so let's talk about meditation in general, right? So what is meditation? Really going for it right away, right? So meditation is really all about training your mind to be familiar with something. Maybe that's a weird definition that you hadn't really thought of meditation being described as that. You might be like, oh, I thought meditation's just kind of zoning out and relaxing, right? The way that meditation works in terms of relaxation, let's use that as an example, it's not just like pulling relaxation out of nowhere. Meditation is teaching you to become familiar with your natural ability to be relaxed, right? It's a subtle difference there, right? So that relaxation that you're looking for, kind of low stress, nice and peaceful and calm and clarity, right? Sounds wonderful. That's in there. It's in you, right? It's not gone. You just got to go find it, right? And so meditation helps you become better at finding it, right? So if we think about this kind of definition of meditation being a form of familiarizing your mind, it's kind of cool to think of it as like training your body, right? So maybe you want to run a race. Like if I was going to run a race, you might not know this about me. Some of you do. I am not a great runner. And so if I was going to run a 5K race, that might be a little lofty for me, but I'm going to go for it, right? It's not going to go that well if I went and did it right now, right? I'd probably get a couple maybe like 2 minutes in, and I'd be wheezing, right? I'd be very tired, right? My body would be super sore the next day, right? Because my body is not familiar with doing this activity. My body doesn't run ever. And so if I make it run, it's like, what's going on here, right? But if I trained a little bit each day, right, over the next month or so, what would happen? I'd be able to run further, right? I'd be able to be less out of breath, right? Because my body, and also my mind, but mainly my body, right, is becoming familiar with the mechanics of running. My muscles are becoming familiar with what they need to do to run. And so running becomes easier for me. So the same is true about your mind, right? The more that you familiarize your mind with something, the easier it is to have your mind go there. Now, this works both ways, good and bad, right? So if we're finding that, we get anxious really easily, we get angry really easily, it's really because our mind has had a lot of practice doing those things. And so it goes to those places easily, right? So with meditation, what we want to do is begin to choose where we want our mind to be, what we want our mind to be familiar with. Do we want our mind to be more familiar with being angry or patient? Well, let's do patience, right? So then we can use meditation to familiarize our mind with patience, right? Same with being relaxed, same with being less anxious, right? So really this idea of familiarizing yourself with something is analogous to meditation. Meditation equals familiarization, right? That's how it works. And we can see this in literally everything we do, right? When we were a tiny little baby, We were not very good at walking. Walking was challenging. We had to really, think about the mechanics of walking. Now we can walk anywhere. We don't have to think about it, right? Because it's familiar to us, right? We can see examples of this everywhere, right? So in order for us to really kind of take advantage of this, of meditation being a familiarization technique, we do first have to learn how to relax ourselves a little bit. Because when you are not relaxed, when you are your mind's agitated, it's not really working as efficiently as we might want it to, right? Maybe you get mad at things that normally. I'm punching my mic again. I did this all last time. Maybe you get mad at things that normally you wouldn't get mad about, right? Will that ever happen? And then later you're like, oh, why was I so mad about that, right? Maybe we get anxious about things that we normally wouldn't worry about, right? So when our mind is stressed or anxious or agitated, it's hard for us to kind of use it to its full potential, right? So step one of meditation is to learn how to relax our mind a little bit, right? And an analogy I love to use, I use it every week, nearly every week, is if you imagine a lake on a very calm, still, sunny day, right? You can see the reflection in the lake very clearly, right? If it starts to rain, if the wind picks up a little bit, it starts to cause some ripples on the lake, and that reflection isn't as clear. And if it really starts to downpour, it's like gusts of wind, right? We might not be able to see the reflection in the lake at all. It's there, but it's just kind of hidden, right? So this is a really good analogy for our mind. Our mind normally is like a still lake, very calm, very clear, very cool and collected, thinking clearly about things, objectively about problems we might be having. And all of our stress, anxiety, the bombardment of thoughts and stimuli and distractions that are coming into our mind all day long, they are like raindrops on the surface of our mind. And they're making it hard for us to access that stillness, right? It's obscuring the reflection a little bit. It's obscuring that stillness. So step one with meditation is we want to learn how to clear away some of those raindrops that are obscuring the reflection. And then step two, well, we can look at the reflection, right? So step one, relaxing. Step two, investigating. I like to call it investigating. More formally, it can be called contemplation, right? So the way that we're going to do this, relax our mind, is with a method called single-pointed concentration. And all this means is you're focusing on one thing. Not so easy. Why? Because we are super, super familiar with multitasking, right? We are multitasking all day, every day. So our mind is very familiar, right? There's that word, very familiar with doing as many things as possible. Right? Our mind is not so familiar with being like, I'm going to focus on this one thing and this one thing alone, and I'm not going to think about anything else. So we're going to practice doing this. And you might have some experience in your mind being single-pointedly focused. If you've ever been at work and you felt like in the zone, maybe you're working on a project, right? What happens? You lose track of time, you forget to eat lunch, people call your name, you don't hear it, right? All those distractions that are normally there, they're not, right? They are, but you're not paying attention to them, right? Excuse me. So we want to start to do this intentionally. And we're going to use our breath as the object of our meditation. I'll talk a little bit more about that in our topic today, because we're going to actually explore other objects that we can focus on in meditation. But for now, we're going to use our breath. Breathing meditation. You've probably heard of it before. My hair looks crazy. Sorry. So breathing meditation is a great starting point. Why? Your breath's always with you. So if you get good at relaxing using your breath, whew, man, you got that in your tool belt all the time. That's great, right? So that's what we're going to do now. And from an instructional standpoint, it's pretty simple. You're going to just follow along with what I'm saying. I'm going to guide us, but you're going to focus on your breath. Notice when your attention has drifted, and then whenever you notice that, bring your attention back to your breath. That's it, right? That's meditation. Rob, my hair's always on point. Thank you. Appreciate that. So a lot of times we think meditation is never being distracted or like never thinking about anything else. No, your mind thinks. That's what it does. Our goal with meditation is to be able to notice when our mind is getting distracted early on and bring it back to what we want to focus on. Okay? So we're going to do that now. It's going to be about 5 minutes, so don't worry, you're not going to be there for very long, meditating for a very long time, right? So sit comfortably. If you're in a chair like me, that's great. Sitting on the floor, that's fine. A cushion, laying down, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. There's no perfect way to be sitting or arranged when you're meditating, as long as you are relatively comfortable, right? Because if you're not, then you're going to be focusing on that and not your breath, right? So make sure you're relatively comfortable. And you can go ahead and close your eyes and follow along with what I'm saying. We're going to do about a 5-minute breathing meditation to relax just a little bit, okay? All right. Whenever we start a meditation, the first thing we always do is check in. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now, in this very moment? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you tired? Nervous? Excited? Whatever it is, it does not matter. All that matters is you notice. Notice what your mind is up to. This is called mindfulness. Mindfulness is noticing what your mind is doing moment to moment for the purpose of being able to respond skillfully to what's going on in your mind. So just check in with yourself. See how you're feeling right now. And having done that, you can turn your full attention to your breath. Breathing in and out of your nose very gently and very naturally. You do not need to take big, deep breaths or forcefully exhale the air. We're just breathing normally, in and out, and following each moment of your breath. Following the air as it enters your nose, and following the air as it exits. Staying with each moment of your breath, in and out, very gently and very naturally. As you allow yourself to relax a little bit. At some point, you may notice that your attention has drifted a bit. It's no longer exclusively, single-pointedly focused on your breath. Maybe you're thinking about something that happened earlier in the day, or something coming up later after class. Whenever you notice that this has happened, just gently guide your attention back to breathing in and out. We can put those thoughts aside momentarily and choose to bring our focus back to our breath, to following each moment of each breath in and out, very gently, very naturally. Allow yourself to enjoy sitting here in this moment, breathing. You have nowhere else to be. nothing else to focus on, just your breath. Breathing in, breathing out. This process of choosing to focus on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and being skillful enough to bring your attention back to breathing. That is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind. You're training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. You're training your mind to be peaceful, calm, and happy. How wonderful. What an incredible use of your time to train in this. So just breathe in and out gently, naturally for a little while longer and enjoy sitting here. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How'd that go? Good? Maybe you found it difficult. If this is your first time, you might be like, wow, I was really distracted. Of course you were. You never do this. When have you ever done this? Right? We never do this. We're just letting our mind do whatever it wants, right? Maybe we never really thought of it that way, but we let our mind kind of dictate where our focus is, right? Our mind is like, hey, you're going to think about that thing that bothers you, that somebody did to you 3 years ago. And then we're like, no, I actually don't want to think about that. And our mind's like, no, you're thinking about it, right? And we're like, okay. And then sometimes, our mind's like, hey, you're going to worry about that thing that's coming up, right? And we're like, no, I don't want to worry about that. I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing right now. And our mind's like, no. You're going to worry about that. And we're like, okay. So meditation is all about kind of taking back control of our own mind, training in choosing what we want to focus on. That's it. That's meditation, right? Amazing. Good. I'm glad you had a good experience. Okay. So something I always like to mention, if this is your first time and you found that to be difficult, something one of my many teachers said to me a long time ago, when I was like, hey, it's like kind of seems like my mind's busier when I meditate. And they were like, no, you're just noticing how busy your mind is all day long. And I was like, whoa, okay, wow. I don't want that. I don't want my mind to be that busy. I want to be able to choose what I'm focusing on, right? So all this takes is just practice, just like training for the race, just like learning to walk, just like learning to tie your shoe. Anything you've learned has taken some practice to get there, and this is no different. But you can train your mind. It's one of our gifts as a human being. We can choose to train our mind in whatever we want, right? It's kind of a cool thing, right? All right, cool. So if you have any other questions on breathing meditation or kind of meditation in general, feel free to ask me. But I'm moving on to our topic for today, which is one of my favorite ones to teach. Now, I'm just going to say this right now so you have some time to prepare. The meditation we're going to do on this particular topic requires that you have a small glass of water. It does not need to be a giant Nalgene bottle like this, right? It can be very small. We're going to take some sips of water and really try to focus on what it feels like to drink water. So either now, I'll wait like I'll count to 15 in my head. Either now or at some point, just grab a thing of water if you want to participate, which hopefully you do. All right? Okay. I guess it doesn't need to be water. I wouldn't know. You can do whatever you want. You want a little wine? Go ahead. I don't care. Just some sort of liquid. Okay. So today's topic is all about meditation during the day. And more specifically, it's about getting creative of how we can start to incorporate meditation into our day. We're going to expand what we think counts as meditation. Oh, Lisa's got wine. Diet Coke. This is all fine. Tea? Oh, that's a good one. A lot of people use tea. That's all good. Whatever you want. So maybe when we start meditating, right, because we generally start with breathing meditation, we start to think, okay, well, meditation is when I sit down and I focus on my breath. And that is meditation. It is a meditation, but it is not it's not the only way we can meditate, right? In fact, we can kind of turn anything that we want into a meditation. How? Because all meditation is choosing to focus on one thing, noticing when your attention is not focused on that thing, and bringing it back. We can do that with every aspect of our life if we choose to, right? And each one of those kind of activities that we're including meditation in, it counts as meditation. Our mind is becoming familiar with focusing on one thing. So this class is really good for people who are very busy, or maybe, you're not comfortable with sitting down quietly and meditating, or, that's just not something you're used to, right? Or maybe you just want to kind of expand on your understanding of meditation and you want to practice more, right? We can start to get creative about changing some of the, not really changing, but kind of transforming some of the things we're already doing into meditation. We're not adding new things. We're just taking what you're already doing and kind of layering on a little meditation work. Cool? So let's talk about some examples of this, right? One of the most common ways to meditate that is not traditional breathing meditation is with movement, right? Now, I would venture to guess that maybe a good portion of you have tried yoga before. It's quite popular. I am not a yoga instructor, nor am I a yoga expert by any means, but yoga is often kind of grouped in with meditation. You ever wonder why? What are you doing in yoga? When you go to yoga, they're like, okay, you're going to do these movements, right, with your body, and you're going to focus entirely on the movements and how they make you feel, right? They're not like, hey, go do all these different movements and then think about that project you're like, you got coming up that you're really worried about. Focusing on the movements, Marina, exactly, right? So in yoga, they're like, okay, focus on the movements, and you're supposed to notice when your mind is kind of drifting, right? And then bring it back to focusing on the movements. What does that sound like? It sounds like meditation. It's what we just did with our breath, right? So yoga is meditation using your body's movement as the meditation object. That's what it's called. The meditation object is what you're focused on, what you're choosing to focus on, right? So movement doesn't have to be just yoga, right? Walking meditation is very popular. So like, let's say you drive to work and you're in this parking lot, right? And you got to walk to the front door, right? Now, normally when you're walking from your car to the front door, you're probably like worried about what you're going to do. You're already like planning your day, right? I got all these things I got to do. So what if instead of doing that for that very short walk to the front door, we made a choice, and our choice was for this short walk from my car to the door of my office, I am going to focus single-pointedly on how my feet feel as they touch the ground, right? That's it, right? And when you notice that your mind's kind of drifting and thinking about what do you have to do for work? You're like, no, I'll get to that. But right now I'm focusing on how my feet feel as they touch the ground, right? That is meditation. It's no better or worse than breathing meditation. It's the same training, right? Choosing to focus on one thing, noticing when your mind drifts, bringing it back, right? Cool. Also doesn't have to be walking, right? So we can do a lot of different movements. Maybe we're sitting at our desk at work. Right? I'm using a lot of work examples because we work a lot. So maybe we're sitting at our desk at work, right? And we're like, oh, okay. Like maybe you just like gently tap your fingers on the desk. Not too loud. We don't want to annoy anybody. But we gently tap our fingers on the desk. And we're like, I am going to, for the next 15 seconds, I'm going to focus on how my fingers feel as they make contact with the desk, or how my arm feels as I lift it up and down. Maybe that's a weird one for work. People will be like, what are you doing? But anything we do, right? Any sort of movements that we do, we can choose to focus on them single pointedly, thus turning them into a meditative experience, thus training in meditation, right? So you can get creative with some of that stuff, right? I like doing the walking one. Like maybe we walk to get to the grocery store. Car to door happens a lot, at least in my life. So that's a good moment to practice it, as long as make sure you're safe. You know, we'll look both ways. Okay. So in all of those examples, we're learning to be present, right? So that's a big part of meditation is learning to focus on what's going on right now and not get lost in worries about the future or regrets of the past, things people said, right? We're choosing to focus on what we're doing. I'm choosing to focus on walking, and that's it. Cool? Does that make sense? Hopefully. So what else can we use? What other activities, things that we do with regularity, can we turn into a meditative practice? What about eating or drinking? That's what we're going to do in our meditation, right? When you are eating, what are you thinking about? Not eating. I don't know what you're thinking about, but it's definitely not eating. You're thinking about everything except eating, right? So what about maybe for breakfast? Let's say we have a piece of fruit, right? I mean, like for this one bite of fruit, I'm going to focus exclusively on how the piece of fruit feels in my mouth, how it feels when I swallow it. I'm going to totally plug in to this piece of fruit. And when I start to notice my mind drifting, I'm just going to bring it back, right? We don't have to do a whole meal, just a bite, right? This is called mindful eating. Maybe you've heard of it, right? Turning eating into a meditation practice, right? Lisa, work in your garden. Yeah, great one, right? So sometimes, funny you should mention that. I and my wife have taken up gardening for the first time. And so sometimes when I'm out there gardening, I'm like thinking about other things, not gardening, right? So what I should do is I should be like, you know what? I'm going to turn gardening into a meditative practice, right? I'm going to focus exclusively on gardening. And when I notice my mind drifting, I'm just going to bring it back, right? That's it. Great one. Petting your dogs and cats. Oh, great one. That's a great one. And you know what's kind of cool about that? You're doing something for somebody else. You're bringing joy to somebody else. So that's like double good, right? Warm drinks are good too because the senses come in, perhaps. Yeah. So, warm drinks are good. Sometimes that can even if something's really cold or really warm, we like really feel it, right? So that can help us kind of identify some of the sensations of drinking. Yeah, absolutely. So mindful eating or mindful drinking, which is what we're going to do later. Remember, you need a little bit of water for our meditation later. So that's a really good activity to start to turn into a meditative practice. Why? Because you do it multiple times a day, right? So now let's say you are able to kind of turn the first bite of every meal into like a mindful bite, a mindful eating exercise. You're practicing meditation way more than you were previously. That's great. Janelle, smell and feel the texture of the food. Yeah, so that's using different senses with food, right? And you can do that too. It doesn't have to just be taste, right? It can be tactile on the food too. Great, right? What about smell? We're going through the senses. I don't know if you've caught on to this. What about smell, right? You ever smell the air? That's a weird question, right? I don't know. Sometimes when I'm walking, right? I live in Colorado. I'm blessed with being surrounded by some gorgeous nature, right? Sometimes when I'm walking, I'll just be like, man, it smells great out here, you know? All these different kind of aromas that I'm getting, right? From the trees, from the fresh air, right? Air has like a smell to me, and that's something that I don't always notice when I'm walking, right? Because sometimes when I'm walking or on a hike, I'm very distracted, right? And so I miss some of the joy of just smelling, right? So we can kind of choose to use smell as a meditative practice, like maybe a smell of a candle. Right? When we light a candle, what do? We're like, man, it smells great. And then we go on to thinking about something else, right? So what if we're like, okay, I'm going to light this candle, and for the next 30 seconds, I'm just going to focus exclusively on how this candle smells, the aromas coming from this candle. And when I notice my mind drifting, I'm just going to bring it back, right? We're turning lighting a candle into a meditative practice. That's great. We're big on candles in my household. That's a good one. Question from the audience: how do I stop worrying? Great question. So worrying is a form of, it really is anxiety, right? Anxiety is when we're have like a worry or a fear about something coming up, right? When will this end? What if I say something stupid? What, like, you know, how will I get this work done? Whatever it is. And the way to start stopping worrying is really to practice what we're talking about right now. It's to take back control of what you're focusing on, because the reason that you can't stop worrying is because your mind is in control. And when your mind is like, I'm going to worry, right? Then we're like, no, please don't do that. I don't want to worry about that thing. And mind's like, no, I'm worrying about this. I'm in control. Remember, I do whatever I want, right? So we're training when we're doing breathing meditation or walking meditation or mindful eating, any of these, we're training our mind to obey us, basically. And we're training our mind to be okay with doing that, right? So not only is this good for relaxing, this meditation is really good for anxiety and really good for worrying, right? So it all really is focused on doing the same thing, right? Hopefully that's helpful. We do a whole class on anxiety. Maybe it's been a while since I've done that, I think. Maybe I'll do that next week. You guys are great at giving me what I'm going to do the following week. I appreciate that. Marina, the smells are stronger later in the day for some reason. Well, that's an interesting thing to notice, right? And that's something that you have to be kind of present to notice, right? Cool. That's awesome. Walking by a bakery. Oh, boy. That's a good one, but I'm going in there and I'm buying stuff. I'm telling you that right now. I love pastries. Another good one for smell is the smell of food cooking, right? There's a lot of downtime when you're cooking. I don't know if you've noticed, right? But it's like, oh, I do all this stuff and then I'm waiting, right? So now normally what do we do when we're waiting? Look at our phone or whatever. What if we're like, okay, for the next 30 seconds, I'm going to close my eyes and totally plug into how the food smells. That's it, right? We're turning waiting for our food to cook into a meditation practice. What a great use of your time, right? And then after 30 seconds, you go check your phone. That's fine. All right, what about hearing? All right, that's a good one. Listening to music. I like this example because when we listen to music, we're usually doing it while doing something else. Have you noticed that? Right? It's like background noise for us, right? Which is cool. I like working with music just as much as the next person. But what if we turned listening to music into a meditative practice, right? For the next up until the next chorus ends of the song, I'm going to focus exclusively on the music, the notes being chosen, the sound of this person's voice singing, right? The instrumentation, how it makes me feel, everything about music, right? Just focus on that. And then when you notice your mind drifting, we're bringing it back, right? Boom. Done. Meditation. Elena, at this stage, I found myself only exercise and painting. I cannot think about other things, but anything else, I'm very bad at it. I always have nightmares. So exercising and painting are great examples of this, right? Exercising is a great example of movement-based meditation. Painting also can be movement, but also very visual. We'll talk about, visual, right? So the cool thing for you is if you're struggling doing, kind of sitting quietly meditation, right? More traditional meditation, fine. Turn your exercise and your painting into your meditative practice. That's fine. You're still training in meditation. And you'll notice that after a while of doing that, maybe the more traditional sitting down, breathing meditation becomes easier because your mind's like, oh yeah, okay, you want to focus on one thing. I know what you want to do now, right? Our mind just doesn't know. Our mind's like, I don't know what to do. I usually just think about whatever I want, right? So whatever we gravitate to, we should use as a focal point for our meditation. And that can can end up expanding the different ways we can meditate, right? You keep talking about 30 seconds. Is that all you do when you're actually meditating, or is it just while we are practicing, right? So I guess I have been saying 30 seconds a lot. An interesting kind of a misnomer about meditation is that it needs to be very long, right? This is not true. You do not need to meditate for an hour. You don't need to focus on your movements for an hour. No, you don't need to do that. I don't have an hour for that. I don't know about you. So all meditation is repetition, right? Creating a routine is how we're going to make things familiar to us, right? Good example, riding a bike, if you just got on a bike once, right, for 30 seconds, right? And that was it. Well, you're not going to learn. Even if you got on for 2 hours once, you're probably not going to learn. It has to be consistent, right? So instead of, isn't it better to ride a bike 30 seconds every day for a month than one day for 2 hours or something like that? So it doesn't matter how long you meditate as long as you're doing it consistently. And this is a big hurdle because we have to be honest with ourselves. What is a reasonable amount of time that I can commit to meditation? And then whatever that is, boom, that's it. Maybe it's 10 seconds. I don't know. That's better than nothing, right? So I'm saying 30 seconds a lot. It doesn't have to be 30 seconds. I'm just trying to emphasize that it doesn't need to be long, right? Okay, good. All right. So what about sight? We use our eyes a lot, right? Somebody said painting before. This is a good one, right? So for painting, we're really paying attention to the lines that we're drawing when we're painting. I'm not really a painter, sorry if I'm not using correct terminology. Or we can use sight maybe if we're on a hike. This is actually something that happened to me, right? So I like hiking, and I was on a hike, and I just happened to notice this bird, right? Birds are always there when I'm hiking, but I just happened to notice. And I just really plugged into this bird, and I was watching it fly, and I watched it as it flapped its wings and changed direction and flew back and forth and then flew away. And I just loved this experience, right? I was just watching this bird, right? And I had a great time, right? I felt great. I felt totally plugged in. I turned this moment into a meditative practice because I was single-pointedly focused on this, right? Now, I hike all the time, and I don't always notice the birds, but they're there, right? That joy that you can get from watching a bird fly, it's always there for you if you choose to notice it, right? So sight is a really good thing to turn into a meditative practice. Watching clouds pass by, watching a tree blow in the breeze, right? Even something as mundane as looking at your hand. You ever look at your hand? Look at all those lines on there, Have we ever looked at I know we have looked at our hand, right? Oh, it's my hand, right? But what if we for 30 seconds, we said, okay, I'm going to just kind of study my hand and the lines on my hand, right? And whenever my attention drifts, I'm just going to bring it back to doing that. Hey, cool, you're meditating. Way to go. Rob, summary from the audience, focusing on the task at hand. Yes, right? So a lot of the times when we're worrying, right, it's our mind drifting from what we're doing right now, right? And so kind of thinking about that, focusing on the task at hand is a really good kind of mantra, right, for you. One thing at a time. That's what I like to say. One thing at a time, right? That if you can stick to one thing at a time, you're practicing meditation, right? Marina, watching the ballet. Oh man, I mean, the movement there is unbelievable, right? And I haven't been to that many ballets in my life, but I have been to a couple actually, and sometimes I'm like not that interested in it. And usually when that happens, it's because I'm thinking about something else. I'm like worried about work or something like that, right? And I'm missing all this awesome stuff that's happening. So we can choose to turn being at the ballet into a meditative experience for us. How great, right? Watching the sunrise or set or clouds. Yes, that's a great one. That is one that I love to do. Clouds moving is a really good one to do. All of these are great. Are you starting to see like you're all getting very creative with turning things you already do into meditation, right? That's great, right? That's what we want, to make meditation more accessible for us, right? And then the last one we'll talk about is tactile. Somebody mentioned touch before. This is a really good one too. I like to use brushing my teeth. Because when we brush our teeth, we're not thinking about brushing our teeth. We're thinking about everything else, right? So what about for this 2 minutes that I think that's the amount of time you're supposed to brush your teeth according to all the ones that automatically buzz back and forth. For this 2 minutes that I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going to focus exclusively on how the bristles feel on my teeth and on my gums, right? Whenever I start to think about something else, I'm just going to put that aside and bring it back to brushing my teeth, right? We're turning something quite mundane. I don't know, maybe you love brushing your teeth. I don't really find it to be that exciting, but we can turn it into a it's already beneficial for hygiene. We can turn it into beneficial for our mind as well by turning it into a meditative practice, right? So brushing your teeth, showering is a really good one, right? These are all activities where our mind is just wandering, right? Getting dressed in the morning, right? We're already thinking about something that's in the future, right? We're like somebody said, focusing on the task at hand, right? So this is a good example of that, focusing on the task at hand. Working with Play-Doh or clay. Oh, that's great. Oh my, I haven't touched Play-Doh in a while. Now I want to. Yeah, that's a really good one. If you are I don't know what a clay maker? I don't know what's the right word for it, but like that's a super meditative tactile experience. Absolutely, right? Or even something as simple as just like touching the keys on your keyboard, right? If you want to look busy at work, that's a good one, right? Oh, I'm typing. No, you're meditating. Okay, so all these are great, and I'm sure that each and every one of you can think of some activities that you do with fair regularity that you can try turning into a meditative practice, right? So that's kind of our goal, is to pick one. Just pick one. Well, you don't have to do a million. Just pick one, see how it goes, and see. So maybe that's brushing your teeth. Potter, thank you. I'm like a clay maker. Okay. I can make Play-Doh at home? Salt and flour? Wow, I didn't know that. That's cool. I'm going to try that. Oh, boy. I'll let you know how it goes next week. Okay, so now has come the time where we're going to do a meditation on drinking water, tea, whatever you have, right? So we've talked a lot about turning activities into a meditative practice, and now we're going to do one, right? And so I'm going to guide us through this so you can kind of see like how this might go, all right? So if you did not get a glass of water yet, now is the time to get a glass of water or a beverage of your choosing. I'm not picky. I don't know if I should make this Play-Doh. I'm having a vision of my kitchen being a disaster. Coffee's good. It's too late for coffee for me. I'll be up. But coffee's a great one. Most people drink coffee in the morning. I got to have my cup of coffee. Turn that into a meditative experience. You're doing it anyway, right? Okay. Hopefully everyone has a beverage at this point. Okay. So this is going to start similar to how we started before. We're going to do a little bit of breathing meditation just quickly to relax. And then I'm going to guide us through a mindful drinking exercise. Now, one thing I would like to say is that when we get to the point where we're going to do the mindful drinking exercise, okay, you can open your eyes to locate and pick up the beverage, right? I don't want you like spilling water everywhere because you got your eyes closed trying to find the hot tea, okay? So you open your eyes and pick it up, okay? Cool. Just a little disclaimer. All right, so sit comfortably. Make sure you're relatively comfortable at least. And go ahead and close your eyes and follow along with what I'm saying. Let's start by checking in with ourselves once again. How are you feeling now? Different than before? The same? Doesn't matter, whatever it is. However you're feeling, just notice. We're practicing taking an interest in our own thoughts. And having checked in, you can now turn your full attention to your breath. Breathing in and out of your nose, very gently and very naturally, same as we did before. We're following the air as it moves into and out of our nose. Breathing in and breathing out as you begin to relax into your chair or cushion. And if at any point you notice your attention drifting, just put those thoughts aside and choose to bring your attention back to your breath, back to the sensations of breathing in and out through your nose. When we really plug into something, single-pointedly focus on something, we start to notice some subtleties about the activity that maybe we didn't notice before. So maybe now we're noticing some sensations about breathing, how the air feels cool temperature-wise each time we breathe in. How interesting. And how that same air feels warm when we breathe out. How interesting. Your shoulders rising, falling with each breath. Chest expanding, contracting. Your whole body an active participant in each breath in and out. You're starting to find some subtle joys about something as simple as breathing, purely because you are single-pointedly focused on it. Now we're doing this with our breath, but we can do this exact same thing with any task, activity that we do during our day. Today we're going to do a mindful drinking exercise where you're going to plug single-pointedly into the sensations of drinking a sip of water or tea or whatever beverage you have. So at this point, I would like you to pick up the water or tea that you have. Just hold it in your hand. How does holding this water or tea feel? Can you sense the temperature of the liquid through the container? Is it warm? Is it cold? Room temperature? What about the material that the container is made out of that's holding it? Is it plastic? Smooth? Is it rough? Does it have grooves? Totally plug in to what it feels like to hold this beverage in your hand. Now I'd like you to bring your drink up to your nose and smell it. What does this drink smell like? Can you sense the temperature with your nose? Can you sense the coolness or the warmness of this drink? Maybe you can smell hints of the material of the container that it's in. Totally single-pointedly focused on the smell of this liquid. Now I'd like you to take a sip of your drink and just leave the liquid in your mouth. Don't swallow it. Just leave it in your mouth. How does this liquid feel in your mouth? Can you sense it effortlessly moving between the different cavities of your mouth? How freely water flows, effortless. Can you sense a change in temperature? Maybe if it was cold liquid, now it's getting warmer as it sits in your mouth. If it was warm, maybe it's getting a little cooler. It's cooling off. You can go ahead and swallow that sip of water. And then this time I would like you to take another sip. And as you swallow, pay attention to the sensations that you feel of the liquid moving down your throat, into your stomach. Can you sense the temperature? Just totally plug in to what it feels like to swallow a drink of water or tea. You are turning something as simple as drinking into a meditative practice. We drink liquids all day long. What if we were able to turn a couple moments of those into a meditative practice? That would take us very far. We would be practicing meditation with regularity, which is the key to seeing results, the key to familiarizing our mind with relaxation, calmness, happiness, staying in the present moment. All these wonderful things that we want to do. So you can make a promise to yourself right now. You can promise to yourself that you are going to turn one activity that you do during your day into a meditative practice. You're going to choose to focus on that activity single-pointedly, noticing when your mind drifts and bringing it back, even for just a few seconds. Let this be the start of you creating a wonderful, manageable meditation practice for yourself. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How'd that go? Did you enjoy drinking water? Anything stick out to you? Right? So you also can just pick one of these things. But when I do the drinking water meditation, I like to show that, hey, all those things we talked about, tactile, feeling the glass, smelling what the liquid smells like, and the hints of the container, right? Feeling, right, what it feels like in our mouth, movement, the movement of the water, right? And also movement of it going down our throat, right? We can use any of these, right, to turn drinking water into a meditative practice, right? I always notice the temperature that's why I kind of talk about that a lot, I guess. I always notice the temperature of the water. Like, oh, it's warmer now than it was. Oh, it's cool. I can feel it. I feel the coolness, right? It's interesting. And that's stuff that is always there if we choose to notice it, right? We can enjoy drinking water. It's very simple. We just got to plug into it. We just got to focus on drinking water. Margaret. Oh, Lisa, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Margaret, question. Can you meditate with your eyes open? Yes. Great question. Okay. Yes, you can. In fact, traditionally, that is how it's taught. There's more like half open, right? The reason that a lot of times you're instructed to close your eyes is because that limits some distractions, right? So if you're doing a meditation where sight is required, it is good to have your eyes open. But if we're doing a breathing meditation, right, we're just focusing on the sensations of breathing. Sometimes closing our eyes can limit the distractions. Now, that being said, if that's not happening for you and you feel more comfortable with your eyes half open or whatever, go for it. Doesn't matter, right? Whatever is most comfortable for you is what you should do, right? Elena, I never that seriously drink coffee. Yeah, so like it's a cool thing about these kind of mindful activities is we start to notice some things about them that we normally don't notice, right? So drink coffee super seriously, right? Margaret, my pleasure. Stare at the floor. Yeah, you could do that. A lot of people do that, right? Kind of pick one point to focus on, right? The goal with meditation, there's no right or wrong way. Like a lot of times you hear, oh, you're supposed to meditate like this. You're supposed to be sitting up in it. No, whatever works for you is great. The only thing you have to worry about is focusing on one thing, noticing when it drifts, bringing your attention back. That's it. All the other stuff can be interchangeable. Okay. Great job today. That was fun. Hopefully you had a good time. If you did, come on back. We do this every week. We'll talk about a new topic. Maybe I'll do an anxiety one next week because it seems like we got a couple questions on that. And if you want to, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do these live sessions every Wednesday. So if you subscribe, then you get notifications that I'm going live for when you inevitably forget that it's Wednesday. Oh no, I have to meditate, right? I don't know if that's at the top of your list, right? And also it's very helpful for me. Lets the weird algorithm of YouTube know that this is interesting to people. So I appreciate that. And if you're like, hey, this is really cool, I'm kind of into it. I do one-on-one instruction. I work with a lot of people who are regularly chatting here one-on-one. And that's really great for being able to focus on something that's very particular to your life, right? We're all here for different reasons. I got into meditation for anxiety. Maybe you're here for that. Maybe you're here to be more patient, like whatever it is, right? With the one-on-one instruction, we can really kind of plug into what you need and want to get out of meditation, right? So I will put my email in the chat now. Email me if that's interesting to you, and we can set up a time that works. It is keith@meditationbreaks.com. Now I have to focus on typing it without any spelling errors. Whoa! See, I made an error. Good thing I was single-pointedly focused on this. There you go. Email me about anything. Even if you want like a show recommendation, I'll answer it. Thank you guys for being here. Seems like a couple first timers here had a good experience. That I'm really glad about that. Elena, I enjoyed that a lot. Thanks so much. I'm going to introduce this way to my parents also. Yeah, look, the cool thing about meditation is it's for everybody, right? And honestly, it's just thinking. It's not some like crazy thing that you have to go and, I don't know, go to a cave for 6 weeks and meditate, right? No, you could just do look at all these activities that we were talking about that you're already doing, right? It's pretty interesting that you can turn these into a beneficial mental practice as well as getting a task done, all right? Alley-oop, thank you. I appreciate this, the subscription for on YouTube. That means a lot to me. Thank you. Good luck turning one of your activities into a meditative practice. That is your homework. Should you choose to accept it, it's not required homework. And I will see you guys next week. All right. Take care.